Well, right now it is kind of winter prep time in the garden here at the Abundant Harvest Homestead, and that means a number of things. Number one, I had a couple days here in a row where I was home and there was free mulch in town, so I had to run there to work on some projects anyway, pick up some resources. Figured I'm not going without a trailer and I'm not coming home empty. So been getting this, and I've got a number of things I want to do right now this winter to prepare for the spring planting. And of course, I've got little kales popping up over here. I've got little peas popping up over here. It's not that we ever really stop gardening, but we do transition through some of the things that we're working on. And the cool thing here is, you know, I'm used to Wisconsin, where normally like 6 to 18 inches of snow and ice all winter would not be uncommon in my garden. So in those times, I got nothing done as far as prep work in my garden. It happens to be what, mid-November? I'm kind of in shorts and a t-shirt right now. It is a little chilly, but soon I'm gonna be working really, really hard, and that's gonna help keep me a little warmer. So I'm gonna show you a couple things out here, and yeah, then I'm gonna get to work and continue this. So if you notice right here we've got some nice thick mulch. It makes it to about there. It makes it to about there. It comes up through here and makes it through some of this. Okay, some of this is done. Some of that's still bare. Cool thing here, guys, this one's almost dry, which means I'm gonna go lift some more snake gourd seeds here in a little bit. This thing is so heavy. I think I'm just gonna, yeah. Bugger, would you grab that?
Yeah.
Can you hold that up?
Yeah.
Hold it up sideways.
Like this?
Yeah, like that. Look at the size of that giant hockey stick compared to that 3-year-old. Pretty crazy. And I do not know if this one here formed any seeds. It looks too skinny to have viable seeds, but this one here definitely does. Can you guys go set that in the trunk really carefully?
Yeah.
And I'll let it dry a little more, then I'll open it up. You can help, Bugger. So here is where we're growing some muscadine grapes, right? And if you notice, the whole pathway just eventually gets filled with strawberries because we're growing strawberries as a ground cover under these muscadines. I do have some plans here, which is where this rebar comes in. I'm gonna make a whole upper canopy, but we ain't there yet. So earlier, as I was working on this, we've got strawberries here under the apricot trees, strawberries there by the muscadine. I had to pluck all my strawberries up out of this row so that I can mulch it. Another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking all the smaller rocks out of here. This would definitely be considered a smaller rock. And I'm going to use them on a rock fence, and I'm going to replace these all with larger rocks. And as I build this out too, I'll take out the rocks, lay down a bunch of mulch, and then put the rocks back on. Over time, we're filling in these beds. Over time, these mulch paths turn into some really rich soil. And you can see I've got some more big rocks on that trailer there. So I kind of make my own soil in the walkways, but I also kind of keep making all these raised beds deeper and deeper over time. It's just that you don't always tell because I'm constantly moving up the depth of the soil with the rocks, with the mulched paths. So you don't always realize kind of how deep off the actual ground level these beds actually are. Here's an interesting one. I've got some brown turkey figs and some Celeste figs. These I just shoved in the ground. That's all I did to propagate them. I just took some sticks and shoved them in the ground. Now they've got a root system that they come back every spring if they die back to the ground. Otherwise, if they make it through the winter, they just get bigger the next one. But all you need to do is cut off a section of this, and if you've got a node is where it can either grow a fig, a leaf, or a root. If it's underground, it can start rooting. If it's above ground, it's going to make another branch or a leaf or a fig. Stick that in the ground, keep it moderately moistured as far as watered and stuff, and you can have your own figs. So we started listing those in our seed shop. Just figured I got more than enough that I need. I'm growing about the patch of figs that I want right here for this variety. So if anyone's interested, we do have cuttings from these for sale right now. And I would recommend, with both the Celeste fig and the brown turkey, that if you're going to pick up some, I would hope you'd be about zone 7 or lower. But if you want to grow them as a container plant and then move them inside in the fall, you know, you can do that too, and overwinter them in the house in the pot. So here's a little bit of what I'm dealing with. there is a lot of plants growing here. I really don't like this grass here. You want to go get me the gorilla cart, son?
Yeah.
So we're gonna weed this path, take out the stuff we don't need, and then we're gonna remulch it. There's also stuff that's pretty good, like here's a bunch of little carrots. As we head up this way, you know, we've got a whole packed in section of dill. You know, just look at all this dill. I cut it back once, it's already growing back. There's a bunch of arugula packed in there. So I've got to kind of sort and shuffle through a lot of this to get my paths remulched the way I should. You can see a bunch of purple dead nettle going in there, creeping Charlie over there. There's chickweed growing here. So a lot of good wild edibles that we can have nice salads with all winter. This is a big pile of chickweed. Very tasty. And part of the reason that I like it, it's got a nice, delicious, hearty, like iceberg lettuce crunch. But even more nutrients and even tastier and better for you than that. Look at these guys too. You can make that out. These Korean goji berries are still just rocking it. You can eat the leaves too, which haven't done too much of, but you can. So seeds are finally listed for those too. But through here, this is part of our goal. We're just removing a lot of these weeds, remulching the path heavy. And if you actually look at that, something like that too can go to the rabbits. But if you look at this, if you dig down a little bit, you know, this used to be just inches of mulch. Now, it's like black gold. So as I make new raised beds or as I top them off, I can relocate this stuff on top of there. And that'll work really good for us too. Got a couple willing helpers here. We're gonna rock some of this out and I'll show you, yeah, that is a good one. And then I'll show you some of this kind of after we get done, nice and manicured. I think this is gonna be one of the sections I work in around here. Change that up a bit. And then also like down the middle of here. But it's at this time that I'm not really harvesting and I'm not planting as much that I get the opportunity to make some headway and some progress in my garden. So that's exactly what I'm gonna try to do. So this is a pretty good example of what I'm dealing with. Here is actually the current level of this raised bed. If I stick my hand down here, that's how deep the ground was originally. And that's even with some wood mulch under it. I'm actually taking some of these rocks from way down in here because that was the original soil depth. I put down a little bit of mulch and then laid these rocks up and started building up the raised bed. Now, that's what, 8 inches deep about? So what I'm doing is taking these new rocks, and after I add in a whole layer of mulch to bring that back up the top, I'll put those new rocks on top so this can be dug, this can be built up even better. It gets so nice and soft. I'm standing on a little bit right now, but even in some of these beds I can just take my hand and reach down, you know, almost a foot some places. That is not how the soil of the Ozarks is. The soil of the Ozarks is predominantly clay and rock, and you can't take your hand and just reach down, you know, almost a foot, 10 inches, 8 inches, 6 inches. It just doesn't happen. So all these smaller rocks then, like these ones here, I'll be removing to use on a rock wall project over there. I've got a number of them staged. It's probably gonna take me a bit because I have so many projects going on and everything's kind of intermingled and works together. But I'll take this, bring this up to par with the new mulch, lay these rocks on top, have it have a nice sharp, you know, edge to it. And this stuff too right now is about 4 to 6 inches, this new mulch that I'm putting down. So what that's gonna do is help prevent any of the seeds that are down there from sprouting. It's going to kind of help maintain some moisture, keep things looking nice and manicured, and having some good walking paths here. And then also if stuff starts to root in here, it'll be real easy to lift those plants up. And then over time, all of this stuff as it breaks down into soil can get added to the top of the raised beds, add in some stinging nettle tea, fish emulsion, rabbit manure, compost, other things, keep making it deep and rich, and we should be doing well. One thing I will mention too, because I get a lot of compliments on kind of the way my garden is, how rustic and interesting it is, and how different than it normally a lot of traditional gardens are. But one thing I'm going to point out is the only reason this works for me is, number one, I do have this amount of space that I can devote this entire area of my property to growing food, and we plan on doing that more and more as time goes on. Also, a lot of what I deal with is free. If I had to run around paying for rocks or paying for mulch, this would not work for me. It would be way too much of an investment financially for me to ever be able to swing it. So the fact that there's rocks everywhere on my property, in the area, I've talked to almost all my neighbors. Every one of them has given me a green light. If I need rocks, I can have theirs. Sometimes they'll pick a field after plowing it and just drop off a whole bunch. That works really well. The place I go to the nearest town to get all my, really everything I'm going to pick up or purchase from a store, there's a place with free mulch and sometimes free compost. That's huge for me. I can either load it by hand, which I do a lot, or on a day like today, they just rolled out with a skid steer, scooped up a couple scoops, dumped it right in. Very unlabor intensive to get it. I still got to unload it, but you know, it's free. So that's part of why things look the way that they do here. Another thing too is a lot of my plants, you know, I propagate them. If I had to go buy that many fig trees, it would cost me a lot of money. But since I can propagate them, it costs me far less. And other things, like even with this Malabar spinach behind me, it's dead and gone now, but the seeds are still there. I haven't planted in years. It reseeds itself. We save a lot of our own seeds, so we're not buying the vegetable seeds every year. A lot of this stuff propagates very easily, so we just make more of them that way rather than buying them all the time. And that's part of the reason that we're able to do a lot of what we're able to do. Part of this garden is just to eat healthier and drop the cost of our food bill. That works out incredibly. So I'm able to do so much gardening for free and then have it lighten the financial burden upon my family. That's like a win-win situation, and we definitely enjoy that. Still got monster truck hard at work up there, preparing a place for me to do some more mulching. Obviously daylight's fading. Here's a little bit of what this looks like. Nice new path. Stuff on the left has been swapped out for larger rocks. This one will have to get all pulled up, mulched underneath it, and then fixed up too. But you know, it does create a nice sharp look. That stuff will dry out tomorrow and look like the stuff I put down yesterday. Again, over here on the Malabar spinach raised bed, you see the same thing. And right back there is one last thing I want to mention before I shut this video down. And that is these guys right here. These are the stalks for my Jerusalem artichokes. Back in Wisconsin, I had a good friend. He really enjoyed gardening, and one of his favorite things to harvest was potatoes. And with something like potatoes, where you have a subterranean crop, there's definitely much more of a mystery before you harvest, because you do not know what's going on beneath the surface. And that kind of leads to this whole like searching for buried treasure thing that he really liked and really enjoyed about the, you know, the root vegetables, the stuff like potatoes. So the cool thing with these sunchokes, also known as Jerusalem artichokes, is that we have a little section of these. These guys are probably about 12 to 13 feet tall. They used to be covered in a beautiful amount of just bright yellow flowers. Absolutely beautiful. You'd see all sorts of different pollinators and nectar lovers checking them out. But beneath the surface is going to be the tubers that we like to eat. Last year we got over 100 pounds just from this one little raised bed. So I'm super excited to see what's down there this year. And over time we continue to enrich the soil, increase the quality of it, and build it up. And that's one of the reasons that I really want to see what's going on down here too. Because in my opinion, it should almost be better for us every year, even though we're growing the crop in the same location, because we continue to add so much to enrich the soil. And this is one of those ones that a lot of people are familiar with. A lot of people haven't tried themselves. A lot of people hear that if you plant a pound, you get 10 pounds in harvest. It's like a 10xer, which is really exciting. So the cool thing is when I dig some of these up, and it may be later this week, we're also going to do a special promotion and list them in our Etsy shop and make them available to anyone who would like to get their hands on some, just because we like, you know, spreading it. We like sharing things with people. We like others to enjoy some of these amazing, rich, bountiful harvests that we're able to do here on our property. And anytime we can, you know, bless somebody else with it, help them get into their hands, it's an exciting thing for us as well. So guys, that's going to be about it for this video. Daylight's fading, but my eyes will adjust. I got a ways to go yet, more to do, and I'm going to work towards that end. I will see you guys, Lord willing, tomorrow, and we'll talk to you then. Papa out.